The suspicious death of a 22-year-old college student from Long Island has a lot of people in her hometown shocked and frankly desperate for answers. CBS 2's Dave Carlin reports from Westbury.
I realized it was her. It's just the bottom fell out. Really, very upsetting.
Early March 2018, Binghamton, New York. Winter still had its grip on everything. The kind of cold that makes a college campus feel smaller than it already is. Quieter, more closed in, but inside a small off-campus apartment, two young women are starting to feel something worse than the cold. Their roommate hasn't come home. Her phone calls are going unanswered. Her Snapchat has gone completely silent. And for someone as social, as warm, as constantly connected as she was, that silence is deafening. 24 hours pass. One of them picks up her phone and opens Find My Friends. The little dot appears, and it's not at home. It's not at a friend's place. It's pinging from the apartment of a guy they know, a fellow student, someone she trusted. They go to the door. They knock. Nothing, so they climb through a window. What they find inside that apartment doesn't just break them. It sets off a chain of events that crosses two countries, pulls two governments into a legal battle neither had ever faced before, and forces an entire nation to confront a crime so deliberate, so rooted in possession and control, that one country already had a law specifically designed for it, and America didn't even have a name for it. This is the story of Haley Anderson. This video contains details of a real violent crime that some viewers may find distressing. Viewer discretion is advised. Before we even get to what happened to her, you need to know who she was, because that's the part that matters most. Haley Anderson grew up in Westbury, New York, a Long Island girl with a big personality and an even bigger heart. She was the kind of person who walked into a room and you just knew it. The energy shifted, the noise level went up, and somehow within 5 minutes, every stranger in that room felt like they'd known her for years. Her mother Karen describes her as a free spirit, a millennial hippie. And if you saw her, you understood exactly what she meant. The way she dressed, the way she carried herself, the way she talked to absolutely everybody like they were worth her full attention. Because to Haley, she was also a straight-A student, honor roll. The kind of person who would study for days to prepare for a test and then still be the one checking on her friends to make sure they were okay too. Her roommate said it simply. She was the warmest person she knew. And she didn't know a single person who didn't like her. Nursing wasn't just a career choice for Haley, it was a calling. She wanted to take care of people. To be in the room when someone needed help the most. That was her. That was exactly who she was. When it came time to choose a university, she visited Binghamton with her mom Karen, and the moment she stepped onto that campus, that was it. She just knew. The way you sometimes know things without being able to explain why. She applied to their nursing program in her junior year, one of the most competitive programs in the state, and she got in. It meant staying an extra year, one more year of school before she could officially start her life, and she didn't even hesitate. For over 3 years, she worked at the campus coffee shop, showing up, learning names, remembering faces, being exactly the kind of person she always was everywhere she went. By March of 2018, Haley was a fifth-year senior, and everything she had worked so hard for was finally within reach. Graduation was 2 months away. She already had a job lined up at a hospital emergency room back home on Long Island. Her mom was already planning the celebration, and Haley had written out a long list of everyone she wanted to invite. She had bigger dreams too, beyond the job, beyond Long Island. She wanted to move to California, buy a van, hit the open road, work as a nurse wherever life took her, free and moving and fully alive. She was 22 years old. She had her whole life mapped out in the most beautiful, wide-open way, and she was so close to all of it. Orlando Tercero was 22 years old, same age as Haley, same university, same nursing program, same graduating class. On paper, they had everything in common. He was born in Miami but grew up in Nicaragua, where his family was well established. His father was a physician, and by all accounts Orlando had inherited that same drive. Good student, focused, ambitious, the kind of person his friends back home described as someone who would always find a way to put a smile on your face when you were struggling. Nobody who knew him in Nicaragua saw this coming. Not one person. He and Haley first really connected at a party. Mutual friends. Easy conversation. The kind of meeting that feels completely ordinary until later, when you look back at it differently. They started spending time together. And for a while it was easy and uncomplicated. But Haley was always clear about where she stood. She had Kevin, her on-again, off-again boyfriend. She had graduation coming. She had California in the back of her mind, and a van she wanted to buy, and a whole life she was itching to start. She wanted to be free, and she told Orlando that honestly. From the beginning, Orlando heard her. He just didn't accept it, and that gap between what she was offering and what he wanted quietly became the fault line running underneath everything that followed. At some point their involvement crossed a line, and when Kevin found out, the fraternity they both belonged to pushed Orlando out. Haley felt responsible for that, and Orlando knew she did. And here is where something important shifts, because instead of giving her space, instead of letting her process it on her own terms, he leaned into her guilt. He made sure she felt it. He made sure she carried it. That is the first red flag. He starts showing up at her apartment without being invited, just appearing on the porch, smoking a cigarette like he happened to be in the area, driving past the house at odd hours. Her roommate Josie becomes the one who has to go outside and ask him to leave, because Haley is too kind to do it herself, too worried about hurting someone she once cared about. Think about that for a moment. He is showing up uninvited at her home, and she is the one who feels uncomfortable asking him to stop. That is not a coincidence. That is how control works. Then comes the second red flag, when Haley tries to pull back, when she tries to create distance. Orlando tells her he wants to kill himself. He uses the threat of his own life to keep her emotionally anchored to him, to make sure that no matter how far she tries to move, some part of her stays tangled up in his well-being. Her mother Karen found this out later, and it explains so much about why Haley kept giving him chances she probably knew she shouldn't, because Haley was the kind of person who took care of people, and someone had figured out exactly how to weaponize that. Then comes the third red flag, and this one has a dollar amount attached to it. One morning Kevin spends the night at Haley's place, walks her to her car the next day, and stops cold. All 4 tires slashed, more than $600 in damage. Kevin doesn't hesitate for a second. He turns to Haley and says it was Orlando. It happened the day after a party at Orlando's apartment. The night he found out that Haley and Kevin were back together, Orlando denies it. He even tries to point the finger at Kevin. But Karen Anderson has absolutely no doubt about what happened and who did it. She urges Haley to go to the police, to press charges, to put it on record. Haley won't do it because the damage was over $600, which made it a felony, and a felony charge would have meant Orlando being expelled from the nursing program. She protected him. Even then, after everything, she protected him because that was who she was. She trusted people. She believed in second chances. She couldn't fully reconcile the person laughing with her at a party with the person capable of something like this, and so she kept the door open just a little. And this is the part that domestic violence advocates talk about when they describe these situations to people who have never been in one. It doesn't look like the movies. It doesn't start with threats and violence. It starts with someone who makes you laugh, someone you have history with, someone who knows exactly which parts of you are softest and presses on them carefully, quietly. Over time, red flags get explained away, because the person waving them is also the person you once trusted. Boundaries get drawn and then softened, because holding them feels cruel when someone is standing in front of you looking wounded, and by the time the danger becomes undeniable, you're already in deeper than you realized. Haley Anderson was not naive. She was human. And she was dealing with someone who had studied her long enough to know exactly how to stay close. Before we go further, let us know where you are watching from and subscribe to this channel for more true crime stories like this one. March 7th, 2018. It's a Thursday night. Haley is out with friends, laughing, living, doing exactly what 22-year-old seniors do 2 months before graduation. The kind of night that happens 100 times during college and doesn't feel significant until later. When you're looking back trying to trace exactly where everything changed. At some point in the early morning hours of March 8th, Haley ends up at Orlando's apartment on Oak Street at 3:15 in the morning. Surveillance cameras mounted on the outside of the building capture both of them walking through the front door together. She had been drinking. She was familiar with the place. She had been there before. There was no reason for her to feel afraid, and that is the last time Haley Anderson is seen alive. The cameras keep rolling though, and over the next several hours, they record something that no defense attorney will ever be able to fully explain away. Nearly 7 hours pass. 7 hours, and then Orlando walks out of that apartment. Alone, he pauses in the driveway on his way out, calmly picks up some garbage from the ground, unhurried, unbothered. Like a man who has nowhere to be and nothing on his conscience, he walks to a nearby pharmacy. Investigators later find the receipt inside his apartment. He purchased ZZZquil and melatonin, 2 over-the-counter sleeping aids. He goes back to the apartment, and then the cameras lose him for another 7 hours. 7 more hours of silence. When he appears on camera again, investigators track the direction he's moving. He's heading toward the basement, where eye hooks are stored. What they find when they piece together what happened next tells its own story. A tie, hanging from a doorway hook, blood on the floor, evidence that investigators believe points to a failed attempt to end his own life. They believe he tried to hang himself, and fell, and hurt himself in the process. But before he leaves that apartment for the last time, he does one more thing. He picks up a pen, and he writes a note, in Spanish, in his own handwriting. Lamento mucho esto. I'm really sorry about this. I never felt I could be capable of doing this. And then at the bottom, Papi, TVO pronto. Father, I'll see you soon. His father had passed away 5 years earlier. When investigators read those words, there is no ambiguity about what they are holding. A confession and a suicide note, written by a man who knew exactly what he had done and couldn't face it. But here is what Orlando Tercero does next. He doesn't turn himself in. He doesn't call anyone. He doesn't sit with what he's done. He packs a bag. He loads his luggage into a car, and he drives more than 3 hours, all the way to JFK International Airport in New York City. Surveillance cameras at the airport capture him moving through the terminal, luggage in hand, a bandage visible on his head, likely from the fall during that failed attempt in the basement. He boards a plane, and he disappears into the sky. Destination, Nicaragua, his home country, the country where his family is, the country where he holds dual citizenship. Haley's body hasn't even been found yet. It will be another 16 hours before her roommates track her phone, climb through that window, and make that call to 911. 16 hours. He had a 16-hour head start, and he used every single minute of it. By the morning of March 9th, Josie and Michelle haven't heard from Haley in over 24 hours. No texts back. No calls answered. No Snapchat activity. Nothing. And if you knew Haley Anderson, you knew that silence didn't fit her. She was always on her phone. Always connected. Always reachable. The kind of person whose friends never had to wonder where she was because she was always just there. This wasn't her. One of them opens Find My Friends. The little dot appears on the screen. Haley's phone isn't at home. It's pinging from Orlando's apartment on Oak Street. They walk over, knock on the door. Nothing. They knock again. Nothing. So they do what any desperate friend would do. One of them boosts the other through a window. Michelle gets in first, and within seconds, she screams, "Call 911. Josie climbs in behind her, moves toward Orlando's bedroom, and sees her. Haley is on the bed, pale, completely still, gone. Josie would later say she didn't know for certain in that first moment. She just kept looking at how pale she was, hoping somehow she was wrong about what she was seeing. She wasn't wrong. The medical examiner's findings would later confirm what those surveillance cameras had already begun to suggest. Haley had been strangled, manually, and the necklace she was wearing had been used as a ligature during the attack. The medical examiner would also confirm something that is particularly hard to sit with. She was likely asleep when it happened. She never saw it coming. She never had a chance to fight back. Police arrive. The apartment is sealed off as a crime scene, and within hours every piece of evidence is pointing to one person, Orlando Tercero. But when investigators move to find him, he's already gone. Not just gone from the apartment, gone from the country. While Josie and Michela were still trying to process what they had just seen. While police were still processing the scene, Orlando Tercero was already thousands of miles away, on Long Island. In Westbury, two plainclothes officers pull up outside a house in a black car. They get out, walk up to the front door, and knock. Karen Anderson answers. They ask her to sit down. They say Haley's name, and Karen sits there at her kitchen table, staring at them, the words coming at her but not quite landing, not quite connecting to anything real. She keeps asking what they mean, and then they tell her. There is no version of that moment that doesn't break something permanently, no words that make it land softly, no way to prepare a mother for that sentence. Her daughter, the free spirit, the millennial hippie with the graduation party guest list already written out, the girl 2 months away from everything she worked for, gone. And the person responsible was already sitting on a plane heading home to Nicaragua. When the district attorney got word that Orlando had already crossed the border before Haley's body was even found, his first thought was immediate and visceral. No way, he got away with murder, but he hadn't, not yet. Nicaragua, for most people it's just a country on a map, but for Orlando Tercero it was a lifeline. He wasn't just fleeing to a foreign country, he was fleeing to his home country, the place where he grew up, where his family lived, where his mother was waiting at the airport when his plane touched down. And here is where this case stops being just a murder investigation and becomes something far more complicated. Orlando held dual citizenship, American and Nicaraguan, and an existing treaty between the two countries meant neither nation was legally required to hand over its own citizen to the other. He knew that. Broome County wasted no time. They charged him with second-degree murder. They pushed for extradition. They did everything the system allowed them to do, and the system hit a wall. 5 days after Orlando landed in Nicaragua, he turns up at a hospital in the city of Leon, being treated for self-inflicted wounds. The injuries investigators believe came from that failed attempt in the basement back in Binghamton. Someone at the hospital recognizes him. The story had been all over the news for days. Police are called. Orlando Tercero is taken into custody, and Nicaragua makes its position immediately clear to American authorities. He will be tried here, on our soil, under our laws, not the laws of New York, not the laws of the United States, Nicaraguan law. Now here is where this case takes a turn that most people watching from America were completely unprepared for, because in Nicaragua, the charge filed against Orlando Tercero is not murder, it is femicide. And if you've never heard that word before, you're not alone, because it does not exist anywhere in American law. Femicide is defined as the killing of a woman by a man with whom she had a relationship, motivated specifically by her gender, by his belief that he had some claim over her, some right to punish her for her choices. In Nicaragua, it is treated as a hate crime, carries the maximum possible sentence, and it was built precisely for situations like this one. A woman killed not randomly, not incidentally, but specifically because she decided she was done, because she exercised control over her own life, and someone decided she didn't have the right to do that. The extradition fight drags on. Months pass, then more months, over a year of back and forth between two governments, two legal systems, two countries trying to figure out what justice looks like across an international border. And then the Broome County District Attorney gets a call from the Department of Justice. Good news and bad news. The bad news, Nicaragua will not extradite him. That door is closed. The good news, they are willing to try him themselves. And they want American prosecutors involved in helping build the case. The DA looks at his team. They have 8 days to prepare. 8 days to help construct a murder case in a foreign country, working across a language barrier, navigating a legal system that operates by entirely different rules than anything they had ever trained for. No jury, a single judge deciding everything, a defendant who isn't even required to enter a plea, and a family in New York waiting to find out if justice was even possible from thousands of miles away. October 1st, 2019, a courtroom in Managua, Nicaragua comes to life, but Haley's family isn't there. Her mother Karen, her father Gordon, her friends, the people who loved her most. None of them are in that room. They are sitting in front of screens thousands of miles away, in the Broome County District Attorney's office in New York, watching a trial unfold through a teleconference connection. Their words carried across an ocean through a camera and a translator. This is what justice looked like for Haley Anderson, and it looked like nothing any of them had ever seen before. No jury sitting in the box. No plea entered by the defendant. A single judge, Judge Fabiola Betancourt, holding the weight of the entire case in her hands alone. Orlando sits in that courtroom in Managua, present in person for a trial that his victim's family can only watch on a screen. The prosecution goes first. 17 witnesses. Haley's mother takes the stand and tells the judge about the text messages that wouldn't stop, the driving past the house, the showing up uninvited, the way Orlando made her daughter feel responsible for his pain. Her roommates testify, describing a man who was possessive over a woman who was never truly his. Kevin, Haley's ex-boyfriend, tells the judge about the morning he walked her to her car and found for slashed tires, and exactly who he knew was responsible. Orlando's own former roommate takes the stand, confirming the on and off dynamic, confirming that Orlando wanted more than Haley was ever willing to give. And then the forensic investigator takes the judge through the surveillance footage, frame by frame, methodically, leaving nothing out. The timestamp showing both of them walking in at 3:15 in the morning. The timestamp showing Orlando walking out alone nearly 7 hours later. The pharmacy receipt. The direction he walked when the cameras picked him up again. The tie hanging from the doorway hook. The blood on the floor. The note. Every piece of evidence building on the last. Constructing a timeline that only goes one way. The prosecution's argument is simple, and it is devastating. Haley Anderson made a choice about her own life. She chose to move forward, to date other people, to close a chapter that wasn't serving her. And Orlando Tercero decided that her choice wasn't hers to make. Then the defense stands up. They call one witness, a single court-appointed psychiatrist, who tells the judge that Orlando claims to remember nothing, that he told the doctor he drank heavily that night, that when he woke up Haley was already dead and he had no idea what had happened. Temporary insanity, alcohol-induced. That is their entire case. But the doctor himself admits he cannot verify a single word of Orlando's account. He cannot determine what Orlando's state of mind was that night. The only thing he can confirm with certainty is that there is nothing wrong with Orlando's mental state right now. No forensic evidence of intoxication. No evidence of any disorder that could explain what happened. Nothing to support the claim except the word of the man who wrote a confession note before fleeing the country. When both sides rest, Judge Betancourt does something that stops everyone in their tracks. Something that would never happen in an American courtroom before a verdict is delivered. She gives Haley's family the floor. Karen Anderson looks directly into the camera, and she speaks for her daughter one last time. She tells the court that Haley was beautiful and intelligent and kind, that she was an aspiring nurse with her whole life ahead of her, that she was and always will be her best friend. Then it's over, and everyone settles in to wait. They expect at least a day of deliberation, maybe more. That's how these things work. But Judge Betancourt surprises them all. She says she will return after a brief recess. 90 minutes, that's all it takes. She comes back into that courtroom, and before she delivers her verdict, she speaks directly to what this case was really about. She denounces violence against women. She advocates for equal rights. She says Orlando Tercero disposed of Haley Anderson because he refused to accept that she had control over herself. And then she says the word, guilty. guilty of femicide, sentenced to the maximum penalty the law allows, 30 years, no parole. Karen Anderson, when asked what she felt in that moment, is honest in the way only a grieving mother can be. It doesn't bring her back. It doesn't make the pain disappear or fill the space where Haley used to be, but she says it feels like she can finally close the book on that chapter and begin, somehow, to move. Nearly 3 weeks pass, and then March 10th, 2020 arrives, almost exactly 2 years to the day that Haley was killed. Karen and Gordon Anderson are back at the Broome County DA's office. An officer of the court reads through a 12-page decision out loud. The room is completely still, and when it's finally over, it takes Karen a moment to fully absorb what she just heard. The appeal is denied. Completely, entirely denied. The conviction stands. The 30-year sentence stands. Orlando Tercero will spend the next 3 decades in Nicaragua's main penitentiary, a facility known for its overcrowding, where inmates survive on small daily portions of rice and beans, and if they want anything more, someone on the outside has to bring it to the prison gates. And the Broome County District Attorney makes one final point absolutely clear for the record. If Orlando Tercero is ever released, for any reason, and if he ever makes the mistake of setting foot on American soil, Broome County will be waiting. The second-degree murder charge filed in New York has never gone away. There is no double jeopardy. The entire case can be tried again, on American soil, on behalf of Haley and her family. Wherever he goes, whatever happens, he does not get to simply walk away. 2 months after Haley was found, Binghamton University held its graduation ceremony. The nursing program that Haley had worked so hard to get into, stayed an extra year for, poured herself into completely. Her cap and gown were placed on an empty chair. A photo of her sat where she should have been sitting, and when her name was called, her father Gordon walked across that stage. The room gave him a standing ovation. He said later that the reason he wanted to do it was because he couldn't watch his daughter walk up and get it herself. So he thought that maybe, if he went up there, he would feel a part of her inside him one last time. There wasn't a dry eye in that building. Her friends carried their grief forward too, turning pain into purpose, channeling what happened to Haley into advocacy, into awareness, into showing up for survivors who needed someone in their corner. And Karen Anderson, the mother who planned a graduation party that never happened, who sat at a kitchen table while 2 officers said her daughter's name, who waited nearly 2 years for a courtroom in another country to deliver justice, Karen became a voice. She has pushed for femicide legislation in the United States, arguing that the law which finally held Orlando accountable should not be unique to Nicaragua, that America needs its own language for this specific crime, this specific kind of killing, where a woman loses her life simply because she chose herself. She also speaks directly to anyone watching who recognizes the signs, the uninvited appearances, the guilt trips, the threats of self-harm used as emotional leverage, the property destroyed in the middle of the night. She says take them seriously, follow through, because the cost of dismissing them can be everything. Haley Anderson was 22 years old, 2 months from graduating, with a job already waiting for her, a van she wanted to buy, a California coastline she wanted to see, a whole open road she hadn't driven yet. She trusted people because that was her nature, and her nature was never the problem. The problem was a person who watched her closely enough to know exactly how that trust worked, and decided that her choices, her freedom, her right to simply move on, were somehow his to control. Her father once described her as a lighthouse, someone who lit the path for the lost, the searching, the ones who needed help finding their way. Her flame is gone, but the paths she lit are still there.